Hi, everyone. It's Lin Bouthillier from linbouthillier.com. I'm a certified trauma recovery coach, and I'd like to welcome you, excuse me, to another episode of my ongoing series entitled Monogamous at 13. This is my ongoing series where I discuss trauma from two perspectives, one as the case study or the trauma survivor, and one as the certified trauma recovery coach, a mental health professional specializing in trauma. And using that dual perspective helps me to be able to empathize with myself and with others who are trauma survivors and understand what it is that trauma does to a human being from the firsthand experience of it, and what the recovery feels like from the firsthand experience of it. And also to be able to give my viewers, my subscribers, the benefit of helping them to have a new perspective and to be able to understand that trauma is absolutely something that we can heal and something we can recover from, and that our feelings are normal, they are natural, they are part of being human, and that every single trauma survivor is unique in their experience. But in one way, we are all the same, and that is we all have human trauma responses. And when we look at it from that perspective and we're feeling extremely alone and separated and different from everybody else because of what we've experienced and what we've suffered through, in that respect, we can actually begin to see I'm not so different from everybody else. I have the same responses as the average human being. And I know that now if I can see that this happened to another person, I'm not happy about it. I'm in no way glad that they're also a survivor of horrendous abuse or terrible experiences, circumstances, situations, or environments. But I can see that if they can heal, then why is that not true for me too? So in that regard, we are the same. We all, recovery it is for every single human being. There are not some that are worthy and capable and others that are just not. It does not work that way. If we have been a trauma experiencer, a trauma survivor, then we can rest assured that we are included in the group of human beings for whom it is their birthright to have help, to be understood, to receive empathy, compassion, and understanding from other human beings, and to be included in the group of human beings who are absolutely capable of healing and recovering. So it thrills me to be able to tell you that. I have a little grounding tool in my hand. This is one of my holy stones from Lake Erie in New York State. It's upstate New York, of course. And right now, today, on December 12th, we are getting a snowstorm. And I'm going to show you what the view of my front window looks like right now. Okay. Whoops. Sorry about that. That's the view. You can see the bush outside the window. There's a big yew bush out there, like Y-E-W, yew bush. And then everything else out there is white. You cannot see the houses down the street or across the street. It just looks like Blizzardo Diablo out there. I got to set up my camera view again. Sorry about that. Sometimes I can't resist giving you a little view of what's happening here. All right, so all that aside, now I'm really skewed and crooked. Sorry about that. But this isn't so much about the camera view as it is about what I'm going to share with you today. But today is a really serious, aren't they all, trauma discussion. And it's about when children, and again, please ground yourself, please have a grounding tool. And this is a trigger warning. All of my videos. If you ever watch a video by Lin Bouthillier from linbouthillier.com, certified trauma recovery coach, rest assured there is a trigger warning on the video. Not because I love to trigger people. No, it's because I want to help you to maintain safety while you're watching and listening. because these are sensitive issues, but they do need to be discussed. And there are a lot of people who are in the trauma profession, the mental health profession, who will not go into the detailed discussions about things like I'm speaking about today. The topic is about sexual abuse, but not just sexual abuse, but a very, very specific thing that can cause a person to perpetrate sexual abuse on another person at a very early age, or actually any age. But I'm speaking about my experience and sharing it with you because I let go a long time ago of the fact that any of this could hurt me. I look at it, from the perspective of my trauma hurt me, my experiences hurt me. Talking about it for the benefit of other people's recovery is not going to hurt me. But I take excellent care of myself before, while I'm doing it, and after I'm doing it. And this way, I don't have harm come to me from it. So the discussion today is about something that is disturbing, but it's real, and it happens in the world, and it happened to my childhood partner in relationship. The title of the series is Monogamous at 13. It tells you right there what happened, right? So 4 months after I had stopped being 12, I was in a relationship with a boy who was 13, same age as me. He was only 2 months older than me. And he had a completely different upbringing than I had, but I couldn't see that, and there was no way for me to know it. I went to private parochial school from 1st through 6th grades. This person had been in the same public school system from kindergarten all the way on up into 8th grade. Graduated from high school from that school system, never attended school anywhere else. But I had 6 years of parochial school religious education, and I came from a completely different religious background. We were both Catholic, and actually for some time, I didn't know this until later years, we even attended the same church, and he went to Sunday school catechism or Saturday morning catechism at the same place where I was attending regular school, very possibly sitting in my desk on days when I wasn't at school, Saturday or Sunday. But the public school kids, as I've said in other videos, were coming into our classroom and being given religious education, not from the sisters and teachers who taught us, but from the volunteer parents who taught Sunday school. But we had a lot of overlap in our lives. But one thing that was completely and utterly different in our lives is what I want to talk about today. And for some of you, this will be disturbing. If at any time you begin to feel that this is just too much for your nervous system, please shut off the video, go into your highest, best self-care, notice for the rest of the day what comes up for you, and do everything that you can to anchor and ground yourself. And what that means is to be extra gentle with yourself, to be mindful of what you're expecting of yourself for the remainder of the day. You can ask yourself, how do I feel at this moment? And what does my nervous system need? How can I reconnect? How can I come out of that feeling that I felt when I was triggered, and reconnect with my body, reconnect with my own well-being, connect with my environment, connect with other people, connect my body and my brain by using my 5 senses. This is what we do to recover from when we have been triggered. So that means maybe watch some comedy, give yourself some luxurious self-care with skincare, nail care, hair care, oral care, a beautiful bubble bath, a shower, whatever. Read a beautiful, calming, relaxing book, watch comedy, take a walk in nature, pet your fur babies, enjoy your bird or your excuse me, bearded dragon, or, whatever pet you have, and touch base with your friends. Well, when I was in high school, I think it was somewhere like in mid to late high school, it came up in conversation with my boyfriend that he had been exposed to pornography at a very young age. And I was really interested in that because in my household, it was understood. It was understood in our school that is not okay for children. They actually had the view of it's not okay for any human being. My parents were extremely rigid about that, and so was the church that I belonged to, and so was the school that I belonged to. We were taught that that was sinful, and it was, it was a sin against God, and you're not supposed to ever go anywhere near that, and all that stuff. Well, that's a religious view, and my videos are not about religious views, and I certainly would never, ever violate the boundaries of my viewers by telling them my religious views and ask anyone else to adhere to them. I currently, at this point in time, and for many years, have not been a religious person in any way. I do not subscribe to any organized religion, but what I do is I have a deep and abiding compassion and understanding for people who do have a very, very strong religious background and set of religious traditions and beliefs and practices. I absolutely respect that. This video is not about that. But what I am speaking about is early childhood access to pornography and what it can do. And I'm not saying what it does do, I'm saying what it can do for a child's ability to relate to other children. And then later on in adulthood, it can affect their ability to relate to other adults and children. So, as I said, I can't even remember where I was when this discussion was happening, but I know that it came up several times with my boyfriend in the school environment about pornography, and pointing out that it's never been allowed in our home, and he said, well, it's in my home, and so that conversation was being had, and I was curious, well, what age were you when you first had exposure to that? And he said, I don't know, like somewhere like 8, 9, 10 years old. And I'm like, in your home? And he's like, oh, no, my aunt and uncle's house. Well, I knew that house was on the same side of the street, 6 doors down, and that household had 3 children. My spouse's household had 2 children, and my spouse was the younger of the 2 sons by 7 years. And so I knew the ages of the kids that were at the house down the street, because when we were seniors in high school, that was the only year that all 3 of them were in the same school building that we were in. So we were seniors and they were freshmen, sophomore, and junior while we were in 12th grade. So what does this tell me? Okay, I can pause for a second and say, these 3 cousins, they were like this in birth order: a boy, a girl, and a boy. That tells me if my spouse, and he clarified for me several times, I was 9. I was 9 while I was looking at the boxes of pornography that were in my aunt and uncle's basement. And I said, well, where? Did you have to dig around for them? He said, no, they were right out in the open, just at the bottom of the basement stairs. And he said we would just go down there and, sit around thumbing through those magazines, just looking at what we wanted to look at. And I said, that just strikes me as incredibly strange and quite sad. It just made me sad, because my question was, I understand now as an adult, especially as a trauma professional, I understand that there are households where children are exposed to video pornography and magazine pornography. And lots of other things related to the making of pornography and things like that. And horrifyingly, that is our reality in our world. It happens. It happens a lot, and it is a very dark secret. In a lot of families, it is covered up and kept very, very quiet. But in this particular family that I'm speaking about, it was there. The parents knew. The parents were the people who put it there. There was nobody else in that household that could have been responsible for that. And the way the family was existed was that my husband's mother was the older sibling, only sibling of that group of children's father. And they were a couple years apart, I think 3 years apart. But both households, the adults knew about this. And when I asked my spouse when we were kids, did your parents know that that was there? He was like, oh yeah, I'm sure they did. Of course. I said, did any of the adults talk about this? He said, no. No, we just knew it was there. And if we wanted to look at it, we could. And I said, well, what about at your house? Was that available to you at your house? He said, well, at my house, it was more hidden. And I said, in what way? Well, he said, I went into my parents' bedroom. And I said, how old were you? He goes, like 9 or 10. And I said, okay, and what were you doing? He goes, well, I knew that my dad kept his pornographic magazines on the top shelf in his closet at the far left end. And that I would just go in there and take one and look through it and then put it back. And I'm like, you were going into your parents' room, getting into their closet and helping yourself to what you wanted. Yeah. Did you find that to be in any way boundary crossing? No, I didn't think so. And I said, okay, well, where else in your life did you have access to pornography? And where else in the house did you have access to pornography? And the answer was, well, in my brother's room. He was 7 years older than me. And he said, I was like maybe 12. He said, and I would go into his room and there was a cabinet where you just pull the doors open, you know, like almost like a kitchen cupboard, except for it was a cabinet that was on the floor. And he said, I opened it up and there was just a stack of porn magazines in there. And I'd just sit on the floor and cruise through them, look at them and put them back. And I just felt this tremendous sadness for a child to be experiencing this. His first recollection of it is at age 9. But I think it's entirely possible that it was going on at a younger age than that. It's just entirely possible. But the more I understood this throughout my adulthood, the more I understood why this person, my boyfriend in middle school, was expecting me to do things with him and for him at age 13 inside of a school building, and not thinking there was anything wrong with asking for or expecting that. And when I protested and said no, I was being touched in ways that I did not invite and I didn't even know about. I can truly tell you at that age, I did not even know that boys touched girls in certain ways, or girls touching girls in certain ways, boys touching boys in certain ways. I did not know about that. I had heard just offhand comments on the school bus and, you know, in passing, and, you know, kids hollering stuff to each other and things like that. But I really, truly thought it was all just talk. I really, truly did not think that kids my age were engaging in that stuff. I didn't even think that kids that were 15, 16, 17 years old were engaging in that stuff. I didn't. But one of the things that happened was that I was told, this is what you do because you're my girlfriend. This was his vocalization of, I'll say it a different way. This is one person rationalizing, I have the right to touch you this way right now in this place at that part of your body because I asked you to be my girlfriend and you said yes. And that means I'm entitled to that. That means when I asked you to be my girlfriend, that is blanket permission for you, for me to access your body wherever and however I want to, because a child, and I truly believe this, a child who has had regular access to pornographic magazines has now, I think, had a reduced ability. It's eroded, if it was ever there in the first place, ability to relate to this person as a fully autonomous human being with a complete set of rights, likes, dislikes, the ability to say the word no or the word yes, or to say, I'll think about it, to be able to say, no, I will not be touched by you. No, the answer is no. Don't put your hands on me. Don't do that to me. Don't touch me that way. And have them respond and, with respect and with respecting your autonomy, respecting that you made a decision and that you are in charge of your person. And I can see that this person, my spouse, when he was my boyfriend in adolescence, I can see now that he had a tremendously reduced ability to see me in the way I just described. It's almost like they can see you only as an image of something that, well, I purchased you. I asked you, will you go out with me? Meaning, will you be my girlfriend? And you said yes. That means I got permission. That means you agreed to everything that's in my skull that I believe I'm entitled to because I asked you to be in this role with me as my girlfriend. And I didn't understand that a person who has had that kind of background in their early childhood or in their older childhood, that they would have, excuse me, I'm just getting over the flu, to have an understanding in their mind that was made up by them. They just created this from what they've been exposed to, the external stimuli that they have that goes into their brain and goes into their mind and into their body. They're carrying around this conglomeration of understandings that may or may not be accurate, but they're there. And it's understandings that are just assumed and collected from everything that they've seen and everything that they've experienced. And they now have a world view, and they have a view of other human beings as women are something that you attain, just like a magazine. You can take it out of a cabinet or out of a closet or out of a box, and you can use it for your own gratification. And then when you're done with it, you put it back and you go on to the next thing. What is missing in that equation? The autonomy, the full complement of emotions and feelings that a human being is created with and that they embody. And this person seemed to have lost their ability to discern between having a relationship with a person, relating with them, and acquiring them. Took me a long time to understand, because I'm relating with him and having this wonderful, at times, not always, but a wonderful at times experience of getting to know him. Just experiencing what brings him joy, what brings him unhappiness, what things we're discovering together, and not just sexually, but the entire world, what our shared experiences. And then I'm sharing my individual experiences, he's sharing his individual experiences, and we are just, it is so much like the TV show The Wonder Years. It's just really encapsulates everything. That it just, if you could look at Kevin Arnold and his girlfriend Winnie, then I was very much like Winnie. But if you look at Kevin Arnold and now picture that child in a household where the mom is carrying all the traits of a malignant narcissist, and the dad's a grandiose narcissist, and the dad is wanting to be anywhere but home. There was the thoughtless older brother, the highly narcissistic older brother that was named Wayne in the show, but picture him 7 years older than Kevin, when Kevin was in 8th grade. Picture this guy already, out of high school and driving and having his career, but living part-time at home. The point that I'm making with all of this information is that it took me a long, long time to put together how much this was if you look at my trauma history and my trauma experience as a pie chart, how big of a wedge of this pie chart was created by and caused by and related to how much my boyfriend, my sexual partner at a very, very young, inappropriate age, was influenced by pornography that I didn't know about until years later. But he had full knowledge of a whole bunch of stuff before he ever even laid eyes on me for the first time. And where was I? I was in that protective bubble where I had had zero exposure to any of that stuff. I had heard about pornography. I had seen blanked out covers of pornographic magazines, like on television, on a news program or something like that. I knew what it was, but I didn't know what was in it. I couldn't fathom that, and I didn't really want to. But it was a giant piece of the equation for what had gone wrong that would set me up for being in relationship with a person who literally, and I'm not exaggerating here, this person that I was in relationship literally could not respect me. He could not understand it when I said no. And the very first time he tried to touch me sexually, and I said no. And it happened anyways. Just waited a few seconds and tried again. And I'm saying no. And then waited a short time and then just went for it. And the thing is, I was incredulous. I didn't, run away or scream or hide or do anything about it. I was just absolutely shocked and numb that somebody would think that even after I said no to something multiple times, I'm still doing it. I didn't treat people that way. And I was in shock, and I couldn't understand, why would somebody think that when you're told no multiple times that you just ignore it? You just do what you're going to do. And I asked years later, over and over and over again, why did you do that to me? And the answer was, well, because you're my girlfriend. I knew eventually you'd get used to it. Those are not the words of someone who has any care or concern for their partner's feelings and emotions. It's a person who's trying to hit the override switch. They're just going to override that whole circuitry in your brain and say, eventually you'll just accept it, and it'll be what I am getting what I set out to get. That's the entire purpose of this, is that you are a thing. I relate to you as a thing. You're a shiny, pretty object, and I want to touch you. And since you agreed to be my girlfriend, you don't have the right to say no. And even if you do so say no, I'm just going to ignore you. Well, I'm going to, just for a moment, because this has to be a rather short video today, but I want to just go into, I lost this because information, a phone call came in. I need just a few seconds here to bring it up again. Okay, so I just typed in a search for early childhood pornography use. And the first thing that came up was some psychologists and other professionals have anecdotally reported links between pornography use and an increase in problematic sexual behavior and sexual abuse among adults and adolescents. That's the first thing that comes up. Here's an article from the Institute for Family Studies at ifsstudies.org. Okay, so the article is "What Happens When Children Are Exposed to Pornography." It's by Gabriella Coca and Jocelyn Weichel, and it's from April 30th, 2024. So this article, it says, here's the highlights. Pornography is killing social interaction and the craving for personal connection that all humans have. Point 2 is one study found that only 50% of children reached out to someone after exposure to pornography, leaving many youth to grapple with the experience alone. I asked my spouse and when he was my boyfriend, did you try speaking to any of the adults in your world? The parents at your house, the parents at your cousin's house? Did you speak to anyone about what was going on with you and pornography and how you were basically set up for this? Because if you put a box of pornography that's open right at the bottom of basement stairs where you know that several children play, and they're your own children and your siblings' children, and you don't say anything to them about it, you just leave it for them to just sift through and look at will. What do you think is going to be the response from the children? And why would you do that without even speaking to them about that? I would say you could even argue that the adults wanted the children to get into that. It would have to be that the children wanted, the adults wanted the children to be looking in that box and looking at that pornography. So it says children's brains, and this is point number 3, children's brains are not equipped to process the adult experiences depicted in pornography. Sexually explicit videos, images, or writing with the intent to cause sexual arousal in its viewers. And that is, it says one addiction that is becoming more normalized is viewing pornography, which is defined as sexually explicit videos, images, or writing with the intent to cause sexual arousal in its viewers. So you can even argue that the parents left that there for the explicit purpose of causing children to experience sexual arousal by looking at these things, but not understanding what it all means and how do we process that? What is the purpose of it? So creating pornography is a huge billion-dollar industry. This is troubling because pornography is increasingly impacting children and youth in negative ways. With technology and the internet as a crucial and necessary part of life, pornography has never been more easily accessible to children. 93% of boys and 63% of girls report being exposed to internet pornography before the age of 18, with the average of first exposure being 12 years old. Now let's go back to what was happening at that house. My spouse insisted that he was 9 when he first saw that box of pornography and looked at it with his cousins. He said normally he was looking at it with just his boy cousins. The girl cousin was absolutely just as exposed to it as the boys were, because she had to have known about it. But when we were in high school, when we were in 12th grade, those kids were in 9th, 10th, and 11th grade in the same school. So if he was 9, those kids had to be 6, 7, and 8 or thereabouts. Yeah, the youngest one could have been around 5 at that time. And that's when he has memory of being, my spouse had memory of being exposed to that, those boxes of pornography. But I said, were you going from that house, from your house to that house from the time you were born? And the answer was yes. Yeah, had access from the time he was born to that house. I don't actually believe, it's highly unlikely that it only just started being there when he was 9. I think there's a very high likelihood that the exposure was earlier than that, but sometimes our brain cannot put together a timeline in our childhood, especially when, and I will leave that article. I don't have time to read the entire thing, but it does explain consequences among youth and solutions and conclusion, of course, and related articles. So it is an interesting thing. I'm going to take a closer look at it. I have to run now, but what I wanted to do was just do a part 1 today of this discussion. So I will come back later and do a part 2 and get more into the article, because I don't like to just mention an article, skim it, and take off. But I'm going to end it here with the understanding that I will come back and do part 2 and just get into more detail about what are the long-term after effects for children who have experienced this, as how it relates to their ability to relate to another human being as an object, or to relate to another person relationally as understanding that that person has, like I said before, the full complement of emotions and feelings, choices, beliefs, understandings, just everything that a human being can understand and feel, and about autonomy and making choices. So I'll leave it there for now. This has been a really interesting talk. If you're interested in working with me as your certified trauma recovery coach, you can find me at linbouthillier.com. You can call me 716-994-3052 if you're interested in having a discovery call. Give me a call. You can set it up at your convenience. I would love to have a discussion with you about whether or not certified trauma recovery coaching with this coach would be a good fit for you. So I hope you have a wonderful day. You can also email me, lin@linbouthillier.com, and all of my contact information is in the description for this video. Hit the like, put comments in the comments section, hit the notification bell, and share. Please share my videos wherever you would like to share them. It helps me and it helps the trauma community to have more resources. So I appreciate it very much. I'll see you in part 2. Take care. Bye.